Good day to the matrix who are watching this DVD or video. This is another part of the series that we are recording for the level 7 candidates that aim to get an A symbol. Okay, in this video, the next part that we will discussing is the endocrine system or chemical coordination in humans and in plants. Now, just before we continue, let's just quickly look at the review of where it fits in the exam paper. So in the exam paper, you can see here that it's 10% human endocrine system, there's 7% homeostasis, and there's 7% responding to the environment in plants. So altogether, it's 27 marks of the 150 marks that is in the question paper. Now, the human endocrine system, that is the different glands and hormones that is secreted. Homeostasis in humans have to do with negative feedback. And it's this negative feedback part that is usually aimed to with more difficult questions for the learners, more challenging questions to separate you from the normal child. The best way, let's just quickly check according to the CAPS, what it says, what we must know. This is very important that we know. Firstly, we must know all the glands and the hormones that they secrete. So this will be all our level A questions, all the easy questions, recall of content, recall of knowledge, questions that you must do. Then we do negative feedback. That comes with homeostasis. So definitely we can expect to get one negative feedback system. If we look at, we have thyroxine, we have glucose, we have carbon dioxide, we have water, and we have salts. So there are 5 negative feedback systems that we must study. And then lastly, the role of the skin. So if we take that in mind, and we go back to our question paper, you can see the endocrine system is 15 marks. So we can expect that around about 10 marks. 10 marks will be on glands and its functions. Then about 5 marks or which are added to this part on homeostasis, because there are 5 processes, so we know for sure that we will definitely get one of these negative feedback mechanisms, one of the 5 that you will study. And then lastly, plant hormones, okay, which we will also still look at later on. Okay. The best way to study the hormones and the endocrine system is also again to make use of a diagram which you convert into a mind map. Which will look at like follow. If you have done it, a nice way to do it is, for instance, to write all the glands. The pituitary gland, there's the pituitary gland, then there's the pancreas, then there's the testis, the ovary, the adrenal gland, the thyroid gland, and the hypothalamus. Now, it's very important that we know which hormones secrete what, because if we don't know it, it is very difficult to remember the negative feedback mechanisms. So the pituitary gland secretes the growth hormone, and it completes THS, thyroid stimulating hormone, and it stimulates FSH and LH, which we have already learned, and prolactin is a new one. Then the pancreas stimulates glucagon, and glucagon and insulin is the 2 that have to do with the glucose level. So here we will get the negative feedback mechanism between the 2 of them. Okay. Here we will get the mechanism feedback between the pituitary gland and the thyroid stimulating gland. Okay. The testis We have already done the testes, so it should be no challenge for you here. What you must know is about the testosterone and how it stimulates puberty in humans. Then ovary follicles, that is in the ovary. We know estrogen and progesterone, so you've already studied that. That should be no different or difficult for you. Then we have adrenal gland, adrenaline and aldosterone. There we will have the function, the negative feedback function. Then we have the thyroid gland, that have negative feedback mechanism with the pituitary gland, because it stimulates thyroid stimulating hormone, and which stimulate the thyroid gland to stimulate thyroxine. And then lastly, ADH, which we have for the control of water in the body. So it's very important. There's no hormone that you can leave out. There's the 6 glands: pituitary gland, pancreas, testes, ovary, adrenal gland, thyroid gland, and hypothalamus, which you must know. It's not negotiable that you not knowing this. Okay. Now, the best way to study the negative feedback mechanisms. So, the negative feedback mechanism is actually part of homeostasis. Now, homeostasis is how our body wants to be, the way our body wants to be all the time. Our body wants to be in a constant internal environment. We don't want changes. We like to have it the same all the time. And that is what homeostasis. And when something happens externally or internally, and we must correct the situation, then we correct it by means of a negative feedback mechanism. So it means something triggers us and we come back with a response. Okay? So a negative feedback mechanism detects any change or imbalances in the internal environment and restore it to balance. Now, if we look back at the ones that we must know, if we look back at the ones that I said we must know the thyroid back negative feedback. So when tyrosine, there is too much tyrosine, what will happen? When there is too little tyrosine, what will happen? That's the first one we need to know. Then the blood glucose, if there is too much from this one and too less from this one, or vice versa, what will happen? When in the adrenaline, when our body goes into flight or fight mood, what will happen between the two of them and how it will be corrected? And then lastly, if we have a lack of water and salt, what will happen there? So that is that. Now before we look at the specific negative feedback mechanism, it is important that we know how marks is allocated in an exam paper. Now marks are allocated like this. Firstly, a mark is allocated if you can detect the imbalance, irrespective of which mechanism it is. If the examiner is going to talk about the pituitary gland that secretes TSH, thyroid stimulating hormone, then you must say an imbalance is detected, and a control center is stimulated. The control center responds. The message is sent to the target organ. Okay? The target organ responds, and it reverses the imbalances, and the balance is restored. So firstly, what is the imbalance? What is the control center? So if there is too much thyroxine or too little thyroxine, what will be stimulated? Which gland will be stimulated? The pituitary gland or the hypophysis will be stimulated. So our control center is the pituitary gland. So what will happen? It will give off TSH, thyroid stimulating hormone, which is sent via the blood to the thyroid gland. What will the thyroid gland do? The target organ is the thyroid gland. What will it do? It will respond. How will it respond? It will secrete lesser THS or lesser thyroxine, and the balance is restored. Okay? So this is your golden rule. This is what you must know, NB, because this is how the marks will be allocated irrespectively of what example. So this is very important. So let's look at an example of a negative feedback mechanism. Okay, situation 1. We will now look at the regulation of thyroxine in the human body. There are 2 glands involved. Now the one will be the control center and the other one will be the target organ. Okay? Gland 1 is the thyroid gland, that is the target. And what is the control center? The control center is the pituitary gland. Okay. So the moment that you start sorting it out like that, you start understanding. Okay? So let's say this is homeostasis. This is what our body wants us to be. It wants us to be in homeostasis. Our body wants our thyroxine level always to be in homeostasis. But now, for some or other reason, the thyroxine level increase. Okay, increase. So if the thyroxine increase, what happens next? The control center is stimulated. What is the control center? The control center is the pituitary gland, or the hypophysis. The pituitary gland is stimulated. What will it do? It will produce less THS. Why less? Because THS stands for what does THS stand for? For thyroid stimulating hormone. So what does it do? It stimulates the thyroid gland to produce more thyroxine. And we have too much already. So what will it do? Because there's lesser stimulating hormone, it will make the thyroid gland to secrete lesser thyroxine, and because lesser thyroxine is increased, the level decreases, the thyroxine level decreases in the blood. Remember, all our hormones is in our blood, and our thyroxine level returns to normal. Okay, to normal. If we look at what happens if the opposite occurs. We have homeostasis, but for some or other reason, it decreases. The thyroxine level decreases. What happens? The target organ is stimulated. What is the target organ? It's the pituitary gland. What does the pituitary gland do? It releases more thyroid stimulating hormone. As more thyroid stimulating hormone is released, more thyroxine is released, and the thyroxine level increases, and we go back to normal increases. So it's not difficult What is difficult here, or what makes it difficult for students, is that they don't know the number of students of the two hormones that play a role, which one is the control center and which one is the target organ. Very, very important. Okay, the next one that the CAPS syllabus says we must do is it says that we must look at the glucose levels. Okay, at the glucose levels. So let's just go back. What hormones play a role? Play a role in the glucose level? It is the two glucagon and insulin. Okay, glucagon and insulin. Okay, so this is the normal level. Okay, let's say the glucose level increases. Okay, okay, it increases. What is my target organ? My target organ is the pancreas. Okay, what must the pancreas increase? Increase. Look, the glucose level increase. Nee? Glucagon makes the glucose level to increase, and insulin makes the glucose level to reduce. Okay, so what must the pancreas release? It must release insulin. Nee? Insulin. So the liver and muscles and convert it to, let me write it to glycogen. Nee? Glycogen. So it converts the glucose to glycogen and the glucose levels decreases. Okay? What happens if the glucose levels decreases? Nee? What must release? Nee? The pancreas is the control center. What does it do? It releases more glucagon, more insulin. It releases glucagon, it releases glucagon. What does the glucagon do? It converts it to glucose. Nee? It converts the glycogen to glucose, and the glucose level increase, and we maintain normal level. Okay? So I hope that this helps you to understand that if you know these general steps, that you can impact on any, that you can actually explain anyone. But you must know what is the control center, what must the control center do, how does it respond. So if it's glucose, your control center is the pancreas. How will it respond? It will either give or release glucagon, which will make less glucose, or it will give off insulin, which will make more glucose, né? And which will increase. So very important in that one. Okay? So negative feedback mechanism seems very difficult, but it's actually really not that difficult. In Mind the Gap, there's very nice summaries of everything to show to you how it's done. Okay? The other one that we must know is the regulation of carbon dioxide. Okay? So carbon dioxide in the blood increases. So what happens? The receptor cells in the carotid artery in the neck are stimulated. Okay? So if CO2 is too high, the carotid artery in the neck is stimulated. This sent to the medulla oblongata. So what is the medulla oblongata? The medulla oblongata is your control center, the control center. What does the medulla oblongata do? It works with the target organs. What is your target organs? Your target organs is your breathing muscles. What does it do? It makes, it lets you breathe deeper in and deeper out so that you get more oxygen and more carbon dioxide is taken in and the carbon CO2 level in the blood returns to normal. Okay, so my target organ here, my target organ is my medulla oblongata. Okay, but how is it stimulated? It's stimulated by the carotid artery, the carotid artery in here. Okay. This question was asked in 2015 and very few candidates could answer this question. It was graded as a level A question because it's a recall of content. So make sure that, don't think because something was never in a paper that it will not appear. Ne? You cannot afford to lose marks like this. Okay? So let's look at the regulation of water balance inside the body. Okay? The two glands that play a role here is the hypothalamus. Why the hypothalamus? Because the hypothalamus give off ADH, antidiuretic hormone, right? And the pituitary gland, okay? And the pituitary gland, that is the two that is involved here, okay? No, not the pituitary gland. Sorry, it's the hypothalamus. That's the hypothalamus. So what happens if there is too less water? The water level decreases. So the pituitary gland secreted more ADH. Okay. This must not be, all right, more ADH. This must be the hypothalamus. I see now here is a mistake. Okay, the hypothalamus secrete more ADH. As it secretes more ADH, what does ADH do? It goes to the kidney. So what is our target organ? Our target organ is the kidney. From the kidney, it makes the membranes less permeable, so lesser water will go out of the body and more water will be absorbed and the level is normal. So let's just recapture again. We have normal water. Suddenly the water level in the body drops, in the blood drops. What happens? The hypothalamus secretes more ADH. Where does the ADH? So my target my control syndrome is the hypothalamus. What does the hypothalamus do? It's let the target organ know. What is the target organ? It's the kidney. What does the kidney do? It makes the permeability of the collecting ducts lesser. So more water are reabsorbed. The same way, if our water level increases in the blood, what happens? The hypothalamus secrete or stop secreting ADH. So ADH, permeability of water, so lesser of it is there, so more water can be absorbed, and then we are back to normal again. So very important, going back to this is your secret message, this is your secret recipe. You must every time understand what is the imbalance, what is the control center, how does the control center respond, what message does it send to the target organ, how does the target organ respond, and how does it restore the imbalances. Okay? Let's quickly look at some question papers. That was in the questions that was in papers. Okay, this is the first one. November 2014. The diagram below represents interaction between two important endocrine glands in the body. The gland A is found in the neck, and gland B is, while this gland gland A is found at the base of the brain, while gland C is towards the front of the neck. Okay, so what is gland A? Okay, gland A is my pituitary gland, okay. What is my hormone B? Okay, what does the pituitary gland send? What is C? Before we can know that, we must know what is C. So C is the thyroid gland. So what does the pituitary gland releases? Thyroid stimulating hormone. Okay. Then state two functions of hormone D. What is hormone D? So from there, what is hormone D? What does the thyroid secrete? The thyroid secrete thyroxine. Thyroxine. So what is the functions of thyroxine? And describe the negative feedback mechanism when it's higher. So can you see what makes it a more difficult question? It makes it a more difficult question because it does not give you what gland, and you must deduct, you must analyze this picture and see, okay, there is the brain, then it goes to the thyroid. So that means that must be TSS and this must be thyroxine. And only from there you can work the answer. So that makes it a little bit higher cognitive. Okay. The next question was on blood glucose level. Okay. One that is often asked in the form of graphs. The graph below shows the blood glucose concentration in a normal person and in a person with diabetes mellitus. Both persons ingested 100 milliliters of glucose solution at 30 minutes. Okay, so there is 30 minutes. This is person with diabetes mellitus, and this is a normal person. Okay. So what is the glucose concentration of the person with diabetes mellitus at 90 marks? Right, just read off, easy question. How many minutes after the ingestion of glucose did the glucose concentration reach its highest level in the normal person? So how many minutes after the ingestion? Okay. So here it's ingested, and here is the catch. Here is why it is a more difficult question, because it says here glucose is only ingested from there, and after, so from 30 minus 15 gives me 15 minutes. So after 15 minutes, most candidates answered. They started here and they said they 45 minutes. So you must read very carefully. The catch making it more difficult was that it was injected only after the graph have already started. Describe two differences in the pattern of blood glucose of the person with diabetes mellitus and a normal person. Okay, so let's look at this. It was the same. The blood glucose level was a little bit higher in the person with diabetes mellitus. It started at 2, while this one started at 0.08, something like that. So this is the first difference. That one was already higher than this one. Okay. Then there's a higher increase. The increase from there to there and the increase from there to there is a bigger increase. So that is your second mark. Okay. The third mark, it takes longer. Okay, it takes longer for this person. Look here, it's sharply and then it drops to 0.5, which is normal. Here in diabetes mellitus was normal. Look, it's still after 120 minutes, it's still not normal. Ne? So it takes longer. Ne? And compared to a normal question. So if we look at the 4 marks, where will we have gotten it? Ne? You will have gotten it to say, firstly, this one was from the beginning higher. Ne? Then second mark, it was the increase in blood sugar level was higher or bigger than the increase in this one, second mark. The third mark, the drop was slower, ne? The drop was quicker to normal, and after 120 minutes, it's still not normal. That is your 4 marks. Ne? Nice, higher cognitive question, nice, difficult question, level A question. Explain the reason for the differences mentioned in question 2.3. Okay, so they don't ask you directly negative feedback. They don't ask you directly negative feedback. They ask you, ne, explain the reason. Why? Why is there a reason? There's my why question again. Ne? Why does this person ne, have a higher concentration of glucose? Ne? So you must say they have a higher level of glucose because they cannot produce insulin. Because here insulin would have been produced to bring it back. But this person cannot produce insulin, ne? Or they are insulin resistant. Ne? So it cannot, there's nothing in the body that can help it bring it down. Okay? Name 2 hormones that have the effect that is opposite of insulin. Ne? 2 hormones. First hormone is glucagon. Ne? Glucagon and insulin work together hand in hand, ne? to make it lower. But what is the other one? The other one is adrenaline. Ne? Adrenaline, which is secreted by the kidney in a flight or fight situation. So we will need more glucose to run away. So this is the other one. High cognitive question, because you are not, it's not a direct function. You needed to work out why this one is more important. Okay. Another question in a paper. Another question in a paper was this one. Study the following diagram of a homeostatic mechanism used to regulate the concentration of salt in the body. Okay. So define homeostasis. What is homeostasis? Homeostasis is where our body wants to maintain a constant internal environment. So your marks would have gone for constant internal environment. Okay, that's the 2 mark. Give the names of the 2 organs. Okay, organ A. Okay, so what is this all about? This is all about sodium or salt concentration. So where does my salt concentration, where is it regulated? It's regulated in the kidney. In the kidney. What gland play a role in there? And that is all the adrenal gland. Okay, so in the kidney there's an adrenal gland. Now it secretes a hormone. What is that hormone that influence sodium? Ne? It is aldosterone. So this is all content questions. Ne? And then lastly, describe the response at effector D. Okay. So it said here, ne, there's a decrease. So what will happen? Ne? What will happen? There's a decrease of sodium in the blood. So we need more sodium, So what will gland B do? Nee? Gland B will secrete aldosterone. Nee? Aldosterone, what does it do? It makes the wall of the renal tubules more permeable. If it becomes more permeable, more sodium can be reabsorbed, nee? And then it will be returned to normal. Okay? Again, you must know your target organ, you must know your control center. If you know that, it is easy to answer that one. Okay? Then there are a little part in the syllabus that needs that have to do with the skin. How do we regulate skin temperature? Nee, usually this one of the two is in the exam paper. You will either get how does the skin react on a hot day and how does the skin react on a cold day, and it's very nicely summarized in Mind the Gap. On a hot day, nee, again a type of negative feedback mechanism. On a hot day, what will happen? The hypothalamus, nee, is stimulated and it sends the impulse to the blood vessels. Nee. What does the blood vessel do on a hot day? It makes the blood vessels to dilate. If the blood vessels dilate, more heat is given off because it's near the skin and skin temperature get back. Okay? So not a very difficult question. So if you can look at how they ask it, give them labels of part A and part B, nee, and describe how it will get reduced temperature on a normal day. What the examiners sometimes do here is they use it in the form of a graph. Okay? When they do it in the form of a graph, let's just show you an example here. The graph below shows changes in a person's temperature over a period of 30 minutes. Okay? So here it was normal temperature. Okay, there was normal temperature there. It's very difficult to see it here. So there was normal temperature there. Then the person started to exercise. What happened? His temperature rises from 36.7 to 38, which is very high, and where he stops. From there, his temperature drop, back to here. He takes a cold shower, it drops a little bit more, and it stays a little bit cold and it goes up. So here, what can the examiners ask? The first one is by how many temperatures did the temperature change? Go and then account for the changes. Now, very interesting. Account for the changes in the body temperature during period X. They don't say to you what happens. They just say to you, look at X. So that's why it's a difficult or more challenging question. You must see the body temperature went up, and the body temperature was lowered. So what would have happened here? Account for the changes, is because of exercising. The body got more heated, the metabolism go up, and we go. How did it end? The end there, the medulla of the hypothalamus was stimulated when the body temperature was high. It stimulated the blood vessels to dilate. The blood vessels dilate, and more heat was lost. Interesting. They could have asked you, explain. They could have mentioned this part as why, and they could have said to you, what happened here? How did the heat increase there happens? So here, there was a heat increase. Here we cooled it down. We cooled it down. And now suddenly, how will we get, after a shower, what will happen? The opposite will happen. The blood vessels will constrict and less heat will be given off. they could have given you both to answer. So some questions in that one. Then the last part of chemical coordination is that we must know the plant hormones. Okay, the plant hormones, and the plant hormones, the three that we must know is auxins, gibberellins, and ascorbic acid. Now the one that's usually in a question paper and that is linked to more difficult questions is auxins. You can read that. So let's look at some questions of that involve auxins in the question papers. This is February, March 2015. Tobeka investigated the effect of auxins on the growth of three plant shoots, A, B, and C. The plant shoots were treated as follows. A, not treated. B, the tip was removed and the agar plate with auxins. So this one got auxins. And C, the tip was removed but there was no auxins. Identify the independent variable in this investigation. Okay. What is the independent variable in this? The independent variable is what I control. The dependent is what's happening. The independent is what I control. So what is the independent variable? The treatment of the shoots. The different ways they were treated. State two factors that must have been kept constant during this investigation. Okay, we must use the same type of plant. They must be grown in the same environment. The tips must be removed at the same length. So everything that you keep constant is things that you did to make the experiment and the control the same. Okay? Explain the results of shoot B. Okay? Of shoot B. So what will happen to shoot B? Shoot B still have auxins and it has a light impulse like this. So what should happen in shoot B? Shoot B should still grow up, still start growing up because it still have auxins in the growing point that will take it towards the light. But in C, okay, what will happen in C? The tip will not grow anymore because there's no hormone stimulating it to grow, so grow will stop. And then suggest two ways in which Tobeka could have improved the reliability. Now, reliability is how will I make, what can I do to get the same results? So reliability have to do with results, with my results. How will I make sure that my results are good? My results is good if I repeat the investigations. Or maybe I should have put another one here with half hormones and half not hormones to see where the one side grow and the other side not grow. So I increase. If you see the word reliability, it means you relate it to results. That is for your level 7 candidates. You must know reliability have to do with how can I improve my results. Validity is the other word that have to do. Validity. Okay, validity is the other word that have to do with experiment. If the examiners ask you something about validity, they will ask you to describe how can I better my procedure. So in this one, how will I better my results? I will repeat the investigation. I will make more intervals. So I will get better. I will better my results. In this one, validity, how will I make my procedure better? One person will cut it because if two persons cut it, it makes it immediately not valid. The same knife should have been used, né? Or not the same knife, the same type of knife should have been used, né? I could have made more of this one to see that is reliable. The same person should come and check it, the same time of length. So anything that can improve my procedure have to do with validity. Okay, with validity. Another example of plant hormones that were asked in the question paper, and you will see this is always my more difficult questions. They say a grade 12 learner performs an investigation to determine the effect of light on the growth of plant shoots. The learners divided the plants that they were used into 3 groups. Group A, the shoot was intact. Ne? Group B, the shoot tip was removed. And group C, the shoot tip was covered. Ne? So that's the 3. The diagram show the direction of light and how it reacted. Ne? Name the dependent variable. Okay. What is the dependent variable of this investigation? The growth of the plant shoot. Ne? That is the dependent. State 2 factors that must be kept constant. Same plant, same environment. Ne? The influence of which plant hormone is being investigated? The plant hormone, auxins. Ne? Because auxins make the plant to grow. Okay? Explain the results observed in results A and C. Okay? So what happened in A? The light came from the right. Okay? The auxins all move to the side away from the light. What happened? What does auxins do? What is the functions of auxins? Auxins make cell elongation. It makes cells grow longer. Okay? So the cells here gets longer, and as it gets longer, it starts bending to that side. Inside experiment C, what happened there? Nothing, because the auxins were not, they were still there, they were not stimulated to move to a specific place. Ne? Explain 2 ways in the reliability. So you can see almost more or less the same plant graph. The last question in here is also a graph. So I want to show you the trend. The trend is that the examiners love graphs in plant hormones. An investigation was done to see the effect of 2 plant hormones in the accumulation of starch in the cells of tobacco plants. Ne? Then they describe how it was, and then they give you the 3 hormones, and then they will say to you, explain the purpose of group 3. So group 3 was not treated by any hormone, so it acted as my control, ne? As my control, and then indicate what is the function of hormone A. So look at hormone A. Hormone A increased cell starch content, so quicker growth. Ne? And then plant hormone B. What is plant hormone B? Plant hormone B was a little bit slower in plant producing starch. So what will be hormone A? Okay, can we now deduct what is in hormone A? We can deduct that this would have been ABA, acetic acid, because that is the function of acetic acid. So can you see, they don't ask you the direct function, they give you a graph and they ask you out of the graph to get to the functions. Okay? So I hope you see the only way or the good way to prepare for exam papers is to work through previous papers, because it gives you the trend and it shows you how difficult questions is asked. Okay? I hope you enjoyed this session. Bye-bye.